You going to give me a point? Oh, yeah, we're going. Really? You're not doing great.
You're being mean to me.
No. I was being funny, and then you do that. Hey, guess what? It's time to get started with our producer. Stopped at like 6 on the countdown, and I didn't know what to do. So it's time for Bollox Talks and Tangents. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit that share button. If you don't like us, hit it anyway. Torture your friends that you don't want to know. Lenny in studio with me.
Hi.
We got a fun show. We're talking about festivals all over. I stayed in the U.S. I didn't go outside the U.S.
I did one outside of the U.S.
Did you?
I did.
All right. And we got Blake in the studio who's already failing, and he cut into his salary.
Hello.
Already. So he can't even give us a countdown, Lenny.
Come on, Blake.
Yeah, can't even give us a countdown. All right. We got a lot of stuff. We got some word origins to do. Just some really fun stuff. I have not experienced the ones, but this is my short bucket list of places I want to go. The only one I've been to is our local one, is the Sing Out Loud one.
Yep.
Only other music festivals I've been to is like a country one over in like Lake City area.
Okay.
Where was the Battle of
Battle of Lake City?
It was a Florida Civil War battle. What was the name of the battle now? It's where the young teenagers defended the capital. It's the only capital that didn't get taken.
Tallahassee.
And it was because of this battle. Somebody will put it in the comments there. We got Bobby in the comments. Right. He'll come in with it. And oh gosh, Amanda's already getting on to you, Blake. So just watch your way.
She's got a reputation that you're ruining, Blake. Come on, man.
Yeah. So Lenny, we have our whiskey of the week.
Yeah.
And you went with a smooth drinking whiskey.
The sherry cask adds such a nice little sweetness to it.
It is. It's a good after dinner bourbon.
Sipping whiskey.
And they really did a nice job with this. They finished it in a sherry bottle or a sherry cask.
Yeah.
Just a sherry bottle.
Yeah.
It's a very small little batch. But they absolutely knocked this one out of the park. I mean, as far as a whiskey that you can drink or a bourbon you can drink after dinner, I think this is the right one.
Right, and you can see how dark it is, you know. I mean, bourbons are obviously a brown liquor, but that's nice and deep brown.
Yeah.
So, and it's tasty.
All right. First thing we got to do, we got to pay some bills, and we already talked a little bit about St. Augustine Distillery and their sister company, the Citygate Spirits. Mm-hmm. Both these guys do amazing tasting tours. St. Augustine Distillery is the #1 tasting tour in the country. They're now doing classes over there.
Yeah. Bourbon making, bartending.
Really, these guys knock it out of the park. Do it the way you're supposed to do things and the way you do business. Just amazing job with Phil and Mike over there and their GM, Will. They do absolutely amazing job. Another company we're proud to have with us is Meehan's Irish Pub. The Reggie and the crew over there, amazing food. When you think of an Irish pub, you don't think of great food a lot of times, but let me tell you right now, they have great food at Meehan's Irish Pub. 3 bars in one, great music. Oyster bar upstairs, the Irish Pub inside, and then the backyard gives you that Florida feel. Second floor, you have the bayfront and the Oyster bar. Incredible. All right, Abare, Kresge and Associates, the best CPAs in town. It's coming down to crunch time.
They're working hard.
It's coming down to crunch time. They're doing late hours right now, and they are by far the best CPAs in town. Give them a call. Don't try and do your taxes yourself. St. Augustine Pirate Museum. Now you got friends coming into town.
I do.
You're hosting them and taking them over to the St. Augustine Pirate Museum. What is the one thing you want to tell them they have to see?
The Jolly Roger, without a doubt. It's legit. You know, everybody knows that skull and crossbones flag, but to see one that was literally on a pirate ship is really fabulous. So that's just wonderful there. And then I go back and forth, you know, because we've talked about this of, you know, watching all those pirate shows, Blackbeard and Pirates and Black Sails. Most of them have a lot of historical accuracy to them. And then you start reading about the pirates that were characters in those shows. And, you know, and then there's one thing on a pillar in there. It says, you know, their demise, so to speak. You know, so and so was hung
Yes.
on the dock in London. So and so
Yeah.
never made it out of Nassau.
Or he just disappeared.
There
Or
you
she
go.
just disappeared.
There you
There's
go.
some lady pirates.
Oh, a
in
couple
there,
of
too.
them, sure. Anne Bonny, among others.
But I can sit at that little computer and tap
Yep.
whichever one and take. I mean, I could literally sit there for a long, long time. Someone always has to pull me away. Like, okay, they've already moved on, but
Right.
I'm still locked in.
Yeah.
So, all right. Kaiser's Deli and Market. We ate there yesterday.
Yep.
Wonderful food. Blake went with the White Street. I went with the Bollox with the half and half pastrami and turkey. I didn't do the daddle. Reuben this time.
Yeah, no, I'll save that. But I did. I doubled up on the ham and turkey, hot peppers and mayo on a pressed ciabatta.
I might have to try that next time. I saw your sandwich. It looked really good.
Yep.
So,
It's simple, but the hot peppers and the turkey go very well together, and the ham just gives it a little bit of porcine punch. Porcine, I guess. Porcine punch.
porcine punch.
Yes,
Okay.
porcine punch.
all right. But Kaiser does an absolutely amazing job over there. Appreciate Kirk and his crew, Jules. Just crushing it every day, getting out the best sandwiches in town.
And a great beer selection
Yes.
too. If you're looking for a beer party and craft beers and just he's got everything from Little Miller hand grenades all the way up to imported Belgian monk beer.
No, it's an amazing selection. I'm not a real beer guy, but I see all the selections, and it's just very unique. And I know if there's a sommelier of beer in town, Kaiser's the guy.
He knows it.
Kaiser is the guy. All right. The Vault and Company, the Pawntique. It's not your average pawn shop. It's
a classy joint.
They specialize in coins and jewelry, and they also have probably the best assortment of handbags, luxury handbags,
Right.
not just something you get from Publix. We're talking legitimate Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, Louis Vuitton. And, yep.
And Gucci and all those. They really pride themselves on being a level above the other pawn shops here in town. And go see Brian and his crew. Very professional. Always treat you right. All right, we have a new sponsor.
Very exciting.
Very exciting sponsor, and that is the Saint Restaurant located on Avenida Menendez. If you haven't been there, it's located right beside the Hilton.
Yep.
The Hilton Bayfront. And, just they do an incredible job over there. I don't know what you've had when you've went.
Oh, I had the veal chop, the 100-layer lasagna. Their bread service is fabulous.
I love their bread service.
Soup. I had a minestrone there that was really great, and I think I got to give these guys a tremendous amount of credit for the architectural design on their properties. It is one of the most beautifully and well thought out buildings.
If you're sitting inside or outside, it's very welcoming. And if you're sitting on the bayfront or in the courtyard's amazing.
Absolutely.
So you're like, oh, well, I don't have a view here, but let me tell you, it is one of those really, really nice experiences, and they did a great job with it. Jeff and Bob over there, the owners, appreciate them coming on board with us and joining the Bollox team.
If you haven't tried it, I would get there soon because come the summer, it is going to be packed. But they take reservations,
Yes.
so that is a huge, huge plus.
Yeah, I'm so excited that they've joined our team,
Me
and
and you
it
both.
really adds to, and it's on Sponsor Row.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you, Jeff and Bob, for joining in with us. All right, it's time for Word Origins.
Okay, I'm going to go first tonight because for the first time in months, my word origin doesn't necessarily link to our topic tonight. But I was looking around and I saw this and I was fascinated by the secondary meaning of loophole.
Okay.
Everybody knows a loophole is a way to sort of wiggle out of something. It's an ambivalence that you can exploit to get out of something that's in a contract or in a regulation of some nature, and it gives you the flexibility to not have to abide by the terms of whatever deal you're dealing with. And everybody sort of understands that there's always a loophole. You can always get out of it because there's always a loophole. What I didn't know until I started digging into this is that a loophole is also a narrow slit in a wall, a window, or a castle that you can fire from, whether it's bows and arrows or
I didn't know
small
that,
arms. No, neither did I, and I found that fascinating. So that's when I got into that, and I thought that was really pretty interesting, that the loophole was actually a way to shoot protectedly from a building to the unsuspecting people downstairs.
Yes. No, I didn't know that term at all.
Yeah, no.
All right. So I went, we have the music festivals, and a lot of times you have to do live sound checks.
It's prudent.
At these music festivals, and every artist is a little bit different. Everybody's tuned in a little bit different. So I went with feedback, and I wanted to find out where that term came from. And it was first used by a person in 1909, and his name was Carl Ferdinand Brown, and he noticed the coupling of electronic circuits and it kicking back and making the sound, and he's the one that created the term feedback. And everybody's heard feedback before, where it goes.
Just listen to Hendrix's Star Silent Banner.
Yeah, and it's used in some music, and it's unwanted in most situations.
So, but when he found it and coined the term, it wasn't necessarily involving a musical instrument or music.
It was more with radio waves and situations like that, trying to communicate through the radio waves. So I don't know. So this came out in 1909. Blake, can you do a quick fact check on Marconi and when he created the radio? I think it was in the 1890s. So it's about 20 years later the term feedback came into play. So, all right.
Marconi created the radio in 1896.
Okay, so it's only about 10, 13 years later. So it's pretty close to that same time frame. Yeah. So, thank you, Blake. All right, and Bobby did jump in. The Battle of Augustine is what I was looking for. He said he knew it started with an O, but he had to do a quick fact check for me. So thank you, Bobby, for that. But that was the battle where the Northern Army, they were pretty tired. They marched a long way. They were pretty exhausted.
To Florida, you bet.
But the young kids and the leaders of the rebel army or the Southern Army positioned themselves along a creek on the Swanee and stuff like that, and basically were able to defend. At that point, they knew if they waited until they get closer to Tallahassee, they wouldn't have been able to hold them off. So they held them off at the Battle of Augustine.
Very nice.
So, all right, it's time. All right, music festivals. Okay. You are a big music guy.
I am.
All right. Now, I have not been to a whole lot of music festivals. I've been to a lot of concerts, but I haven't been to a whole lot of music festivals. I've probably put on more musical festivals than I've actually attended as a guest.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of, you have me at a disadvantage in this one. I know the pains of the behind the scenes of a music festival. You know, I've done the Warped Tour and Harvest of Hope and Southern Exposure and the Crawfish Boil and maybe a handful of others music festivals. But which one stands out the most to you?
That I've been to?
That you've been to.
Well, I'm going to one. Julie and I are going to one at the Meriwether Post Pavilion in June called the All Good Festival, which is basically a jam band extravaganza. And what's interesting about that is one of our favorite festivals is something called the Great South Bay Music Festival, which is in its 18th year now. It's on the Great South Bay on Long Island in Patchogue. And it was originally sponsored, and it still is, by Blue Point Brewing, which was a local Long Island brewery that has been, got bigger and better and stronger and faster, and then got bought by, a big conglomerate. So they become a national brand now, and the beer is really very good. And they started doing it for years. And it started as a 3-day festival, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now they've added Thursday in it. And what's interesting about that is each day has a different theme. So Thursday is the start of the weekend, and it's independent bands or local bands as a rule. Friday would be a different theme. It was a little bit more low-key. Saturday was always jam band day, so it would be Dark Star Orchestra or somebody like that. And last year or 2 years ago, it was Phil Lesh and Friends, which was pretty impressive for him to be playing there. And then the Sunday is sort of national big rock and roll bands. And it's interesting because we're not going this year because we're going to the All Good Festival. And what's interesting is the jam band day that we would normally go to is String Cheese Incident and Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, which is a great new up-and-coming jam band. If you haven't seen them, they're great. They actually
Pigeons playing ping pong.
Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. They're wonderful. They played in Jacksonville at the Underbelly last year.
How do they hold the paddles? They don't have thumbs.
In their beak.
Oh, okay.
In their beak.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very good at it. It's
So
amazing.
if they're gambling and they lose the bet, do they just say, put it on my bill?
I'll give you a point for that one.
Yeah.
I'll give you a point for that one. But what's nice is the Meriwether Post Pavilion All Good Festival is all jam bands for the most part. And Goose is the headliner one day. String Cheese Incident is... So everybody that we would have seen playing at the Great South Bay Music Festival this year is playing at the All Good Festival at Meriwether Post, plus more.
All right. Here's a question for you, because in a guesstimation, how many music festivals do you think, and you give me a guesstimation, like a range of like 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30. How many music festivals do you think you've attended?
That I've attended. Music festivals, well, I'd say probably about 20.
20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because we
I'm
did the
not
great
that far behind you.
we did the Great South Bay every year for years and years.
I'm not that far behind you.
Okay.
I mean, because if I produced them, I guess I can claim them, right?
Well, if you listen, sure, absolutely.
Well, you can't really help it.
They're loud enough that right. That's exactly right.
Can't really help it.
So, yeah.
Actually, you hear when you hear the feedback, you're like,
Right.
It's like, if, as a producer, you stop everything when something like that happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, is that going to continue?
Right.
And you hope your sound guy gets it right.
Yep.
Because they have to do on-stage sound checks, which is much harder than actual regular sound checks like you would at a concert at the amphitheater.
Right, because and you've got at a music festival, if depending on the number of stages, because a lot of these will have multiple stages, so there's constantly music going, and the audience needs to have to go back and forth between stages, but that way there's no lapse of music.
Crossover, yeah.
Right. So it's tough because you got to do individual sound checks and keep going. Yeah.
All right, Blake, have you ever been to a music festival before?
Well, you can really count Rhythm of Ribs technically.
Rhythm and Ribs is a music
Yeah,
festival? Yeah,
right.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, a couple days, different bands, headliners
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
It counts.
But I was more focused on eating the ribs than
Well,
listening.
All right.
That's a piece
I absolutely love Sing Out Loud.
Right. It's local. It's good.
It's local. It benefits our business quite a bit. I'm fortunate to work for a company that we get to host a lot of people, and we usually have the booth that the artists come into because we're positioned very well thanks to our company's relationship with the amphitheater. And so I absolutely love Sing Out Loud. I think it's good for the city. I think they've had. I didn't know who Noah Khan was last year,
Right.
And he just blew me away. So I'm looking forward to. I don't know a lot of the artists that are coming this year, but I have confidence in my guy Gabe,
Yep.
and he says these it's going to be great, and so I'll take him for his word. And
Well, what's interesting about that is Hosier is the headliner this year.
yes,
And Noah Kahan was one of the headliners last year. Well, Noah Kahan is doing probably 5 to 7 music festivals across the country this summer as one of the headliners, and so is Hosier. So it's almost like it's almost like a circuit.
yes.
They'll play here, they'll play. They will go cross country playing at different festivals.
Yeah, without a doubt, and a lot of the crossover between the ones that I have here makes sense, and they fit into Sing Out Loud Festival and the genre he's actually aiming towards.
Yep.
And I have a list of some of the bigger ones here. Lollapalooza is the one that I see as being one of the biggest, along with Coachella and Bonnaroo.
Yes.
Of those three, which one would you lean towards?
Well, I love me Chicago, and since 2002, no, come on, where's my?
I think it's right.
2005. Lollapalooza started in 1991, but since 2005, it's been exclusively in Chicago.
Okay.
So that's great because you're in the Windy City, which is a fabulous place to be.
Certain parts.
Yeah, I like Chicago. Well,
There's good parts and bad parts.
Yeah, I ain't going to Cabrini Greens.
Yeah, there's good parts and bad
fair
parts.
enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
So stay away from the south side.
Yeah. I think I'd like to either go to Austin City Limits Festival or South by Southwest, or if you want to go international, Glastonbury over in England.
And those are two different ones.
Correct. Both
Even
in
though
Austin.
they're both in Austin.
Correct.
They're two separate
Right.
festivals.
Right.
So if you had to choose, you only get one free trip to Austin. Are you doing Austin City Limits or are you doing South by Southwest?
Austin City Limits, because South by Southwest has got so much more going on to it. There's media, there's film, there's a lot of other things that take it out of the realm of just a straight music festival. But it's predominantly music, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. We even just may say there's a lot of stuff fringe-wise. I didn't even think there's a fringe festival too. That's just been going on for a while. But the one that I've never gone to that I really would like to go to, and it's sort of like Mardi Gras. You know, I've gotten to the point where there's just too many people at Mardi Gras for me to, think about going to Mardi Gras now. Is the
See, I'm not a big fan. I've only been to New Orleans, I think twice.
yeah.
And once was for a softball tournament.
Right.
Our co-ed team from St. Augustine won a national softball tournament. We beat Jose Canseco's team in co-ed. And we beat another team that was very high paid. And here we are, a little team, ragtag team. I mean, we had players from around Florida. I mean, we still had, players from out of the town, but 90% of us were from St. Augustine, and we won the national championship. Levi, who's on Mike's show,
Right on Wednesdays.
his mom was our left fielder.
Nice.
And she won the women's MVP, and I happened to have a good tournament. And I won the men's MVP at that national tournament. So the tournament itself was great. The city itself, I felt like I needed a tetanus shot after I left. It's not a city that I was like, oh my gosh. Like you go to some of these cities and you're playing ball, and you're like, I really need to come back and see this city. Mm-hmm. New Orleans is probably that, and St. Louis are probably the two lowest levels where I was like, if I don't come back. And I went to Cleveland quite a bit for because they had a national tournament there for the Steel's Bat Companies where they were hosted. So I went to Cleveland quite a bit, and that's another one where you're like, okay, if I don't see it.
I like New Orleans a lot, but
is that how you say it? Is it New Orleans or New Orleans?
I say New Orleans, but I get yelled at when it's New Orleans.
Yeah.
But I call it New Orleans because, that's the way it's written and that's the way I pronounce it. But, me, I'm a contrarian on a lot of levels.
All right, well, Blake, you're the tiebreaker. New Orleans or New Orleans?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, I think he was somewhere between us.
Yeah.
So that's the third one.
Yeah, no, I'm usually not.
So all of us
I'm not correct in that, but New Orleans, I love it there. Been there a couple times. 3 days or I die, because they offer you just too much. There's too much music everywhere you go. There's too much alcohol everywhere you go. It's one of those places where if you're on Bourbon Street and you see any of the clubs there, happy hour is 3 for $1, and you sit down and they plop 3 of them in front of you.
Wow.
Yeah. And the food is just some of the best food in the country.
Yeah, see, I was probably too poor at the time to enjoy it. It was, Blake, it was before Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't been after Katrina.
No, nor I.
I think it was 98, so it was before Blake. So his mom and I were pretty broke at the time. I think she was still in college or maybe just out of college. So we were pretty freaking broke. So we really couldn't enjoy like a really good meal. So it was kind of like, okay, that street guy, okay, that's $3. We're going with that.
Right.
So
great hot dogs in the French Quarter.
We spent all our money getting there,
right?
And the hotel room, so we didn't have any money really for extras. So
coming into Louis Armstrong Airport.
Yeah. No, we drove.
Oh no.
Yeah, we couldn't afford that airplane ticket. That was and there wasn't a lot of extra coin around for flights.
But yeah, no, I've been there, and me being in the restaurant business, I will eat in some of the better restaurants there. So ate at K. Paul's when he was still alive. Emerald's. Obviously did the beignets at.
Yeah, we did do that.
Yeah,
we splurged for that one.
Yeah.
So
A lot of powdered sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was mostly sugar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
But
yeah.
they're good.
I still
and the
would-
chicory coffee.
I still preferred the St. Johns County Fairground funnel cake over it.
There you go.
So,
Yeah. But that's it. But what made me bring up New Orleans is the Heritage and Jazz Festival called Jazz Fest.
okay.
And that's been going for years. I got it over here somewhere. Started in 1968, and they wanted to start it earlier and earlier, but in the late 60s, there was still a lot of, especially in Louisiana and in New Orleans, there's a lot of racial tension. So they were very, very unsure about doing something with this magnitude.
Yes.
It has grown into one of the largest regularly scheduled music festivals in the country without a doubt. It's the last weekend in April and the first weekend in May. And if you're a musician, you want to get on one of those stages. Hundreds of thousands of people go either weekend. Springsteen played last year or the year before.
Yeah.
It gets everywhere. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's a big name for playing something like that.
He's the most overrated artist of all time.
Oh, I don't know.
Taylor Swift.
No.
Oh,
She is
whoa.
talented, man. I'm sorry.
Look at the concept. The comments are lighting up.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not. I'm never. Never.
yeah.
I mean, and I grew up when he was at his peak, like MTV days, and
Yeah.
Courtney Cox dancing on stage.
Right, before she was Courtney Cox, exactly,
So
yeah.
I mean, I had the opportunity to be I'm sorry, I just never really got the pizzazz. I was at that time. It was like, okay, Springsteen, give me Billy Joel, or give me Hall & Oates, or give me Elton John, give me
No, they're not all mutually exclusive. You can like them all. I do.
give me Van Halen. No, I just didn't. Like
Yeah, you lost me at Van Halen.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, but I prefer Van Halen, and Van Halen wasn't one of my guys at the time. I was more of a Prince, Michael Jackson. More of the MTV crowd. I was
Right.
locked in with it, but I just Springsteen never
Really?
blew
Okay.
my skirt up.
All right.
So I don't know if it was.
No, I've seen him.
I was more of a Mellencamp than him.
Okay.
So
Similar style, but different career trajectories.
yeah.
He just made it to be a billionaire now. He's one of the newly coined billionaires, Bruce Springsteen.
Springsteen.
Yeah, he sold his catalog. So now he's worth 1.2 billion, if not a little bit more.
So he doesn't own his music anymore.
Nope. Most of these people don't.
Yeah. No.
I
no,
think Taylor Swift does, or she
no,
created it back. She lost
She
it.
No, she never owned it.
Right.
But she recreated it.
And now, right, she controls her own music now
she
by
controls
reissuing
her-
it.
but
Right.
she reissued
Yeah. Yep.
and redid it, and she was able to. There was loophole
Thank you. Yep.
in her contract that she was able to do that.
Yeah. Good for her.
But I think Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney got in a huge argument. I think their friendship was jeopardized because of buying of music.
Yeah.
Both of those guys McCartney and Michael Jackson were heavily, a lot of their wealth came from owning other people's music.
Yeah.
And I think Jackson owned a lot of the Beatles'
He bought it,
music.
yeah.
And he wouldn't sell it to McCartney.
All right. Well, Sir Paul, sorry.
Yeah. So
He's not going to miss a meal.
yeah, I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But the story of Paul dying in a car accident, and the one that Sir Paul now is actually a fake.
I did not know that.
Did you hear that urban legend, Blake?
I had it for it before, and
Well, the fake guy's doing pretty good for himself. I'll tell you that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's still out there and he's still
Well,
performing.
I think he's the only man who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 3 different reasons. He's in there with the Wings, in there with Beatles, and as a solo artist. I don't know of somebody else who's in there 3 different ways.
There's got to be somebody else
Blake,
because
Blake, can you fact check that?
yeah, I don't know about David Crosby.
Ugh.
Sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
just reporting the news here. Just reporting the news. But I did hear
I
something.
told you my story of Crosby, right?
No,
Okay. So Crosby.
it was either you or him with Melissa Etheridge, and you lost.
hold on. It was actually Eric Clapton. He's actually the only person that
Right.
to be
Eric
inducted.
Clapton is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
I didn't think it was McCartney.
Yeah, it's not McCartney, but I think he's only in twice. But then,
So he's not in as a solo artist,
I think he is in as a solo artist.
but not with Wings.
I don't think with Wings.
How is Wings not in?
And how is he a solo artist?
Because he did so much stuff in the 80s by himself.
Really?
most of the stuff he did in the 70s was with Wings. And
Right.
All his stuff,
Yeah,
I like
all his
Wings.
stuff
I like
in the
Wings.
60s.
Yeah. So Paul McCartney's only in for Beatles and his solo work, not with Wings.
Oh, okay. I find that Wings were one of the top groups
Yeah.
of the 70s. I'm surprised they're not in. But Eric Clapton is in for 3 different reasons. All right. That's,
Well, 3 different bands: Yardbirds,
yeah.
Solo, and Cream.
Yeah.
Thank you. I lost my head there for a second. Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. I lost my train of thought. We were talking about something.
Well, you're trying to get back on the track. I'm in the car today. Julie and I were running some errands, and somebody finally listened to a cassette that he had on his shelf in England, and it turned out that he thought it was just a bootleg tape of the Beatles, and it turned out it was a demo tape that the Beatles made on a New Year's Day to give to Decca Records in London, and the guy never listened to it. And now he's sitting on a pretty penny, and a lot of it were covers. So, and it was interesting. There were like 3 original songs, and a bunch of them were covers that the Beatles did.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fascinating that he finally just pushed play on that.
Yeah. I remember what the thought was. It was about owning music, and it was Michael and Paul having their little fallout that they had because they had like a #1 song together or something like that. But I think Sir Paul owns the rights to the Michigan Fight song.
Really?
So it's something really strange like that. Like when they go out and they play at halftime,
Yeah.
he gets a kickback from like BMI or ASCAP or one of those.
An extra 7 cents. Good for him. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty wild. And what's his name? Smokey Robinson made way more from his owning of My Girl.
It was actually
than he did on-
Wisconsin.
Huh?
It's actually Wisconsin.
It's Wisconsin's fight
Wisconsin?
song?
Yeah.
Okay, Michigan he would have made a lot more money. They
Right.
get a lot more televised.
Yeah, but on Wisconsin is a fight song that people know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it's Wisconsin, huh? Can you see who owns the Michigan fight song? I know it's something weird like that.
Yeah.
So, and at one point, Sir Paul owned more land than the country of Great Britain
Wow.
over there. I mean, shrewd business guy. And I think
So
what's the writer's name? J.K. has
Rolling.
passed him. He has
Yeah,
passed him.
Yeah.
So Michigan's fight song is technically public domain since it was written by a student. So no one officially owns
Okay.
it.
All
Okay.
right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So-
Now we can go sing that one without having to pay a royalty.
Yeah, we're good. We're good to go.
Yeah. Paul don't need my money.
Yeah. So, like, what's Flagler's fight song like?
It was worth the look. It was just worth that look.
Bobby said Ebony and Ivory, but wasn't that
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Stevie Wonder. And I think it was great, the SNL skit where
With that Eddie Murphy.
yeah, Eddie Murphy and Joe Pesci.
Yep.
One was as Sinatra. Pesci was as Sinatra. So you're blind as a bat.
He did a great Sinatra. He really did.
All right. So Lollapalooza, which do you consider the biggest? Would it be Lollapalooza, Coachella, Burning Man, or Bonnaroo?
Okay. Do you know that Burning Man doesn't have music? It's not a music festival?
It's not?
No.
They have no music there.
I'm sure there's music there, but it's not like bands come and play at Burning Man.
Okay. I didn't know
That's what I learned in my research. Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah.
I
You
just
know,
always
it's
assumed
like an
that-
arts festival, and you go and you can burn anything you want as long as it's on a pyre.
Okay.
You can't just go start burning stuff in the middle of the desert. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's music there of some nature. I'm sure there's bands, but that's not the intention of it. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not
It's
necessarily
not- it's
a
not a
music.
ticketed
It's
music.
not a music festival.
It's not a
Correct.
Here, let me
Correct.
wipe that sucker out.
Okay.
All right. So Lollapalooza, Coachella, Bonnaroo. No, I have those as the big 3.
Okay, so-
do you have somebody else that you consider bigger,
Going to myself.
bigger than?
Well, I mean, we can historically go Woodstock, the granddaddy of them all. I mean, they had 400,000 people there when they were expecting to sell 100.
Yeah, but that's not annual though.
No. That's just historical. Do you know the history of Coachella? Okay. So it's interesting because there's a couple things that are going on there. In 1993, Pearl Jam played a concert at the Empire Polo Grounds, which is where Coachella is held.
Yeah.
Okay. They did that because they were pissed off, like most of the world, at Ticketmaster. And they said, screw you, Ticketmaster. We're doing this show. We'll deal with our tickets. You go away. And that's how Coachella started.
Yeah.
As a protest to Ticketmaster and the venues that Ticketmaster controlled. So they did it on the Polo Grounds, which Ticketmaster didn't control. And that was in 1993, and they got 25,000 people.
Pearl Jam was amazing.
Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam is playing this year's Heritage and Jazz Festival.
Yeah. It's not really Pearl Jam.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to remember who's dead, because you know me, I know I have no. That's why I never do a Deadpool.
Blake, can you pull up original members of Pearl Jam and who's
How many are alive?
Who's actually playing and haven't died because of some type of drug
Right.
addiction?
So every year you do a Deadpool, like who's going to die during the course of the year. I never do it because I never know who's alive or dead now.
Yeah. No, I've asked that question at trivia and you failed horribly.
Often, because what?
Well, last week you kept naming people
Right.
that you thought were still alive in baseball.
Right.
So.
For a cynical son of a gun, I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
They're dead. I figure everybody's still alive.
When did Einstein die?
Right.
Well, Eddie Vedder is still alive, so he's still kicking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike McCready. Let's see. Matt Cameron, and then Jeff. And Jeff
Still with them. Is all the main people are still there?
Four of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it back.
Okay,
I
so-
thought they only had like two.
In 1999, Coachella became Coachella as opposed to Screw You Ticketmaster.
Okay.
So, because there was a gap. So
I still have
93
a screw you Ticketmaster attitude.
Oh, I'm with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, and I did get my tickets for
Okay.
for
the Access.
Billy Tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
it's just, but it was a timing thing. You can't transfer the ticket too far in advance.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I'm
It
still
worked out.
struggling a little bit.
It worked out. All right. Well, I'll help you. I know people.
Okay.
I know you.
Thank you.
You're the people I know.
Yeah.
But when they average about 250,000 people a year at the Empire Polo Grounds in Indio, California, which, by the way, has a very, very strict curfew. If they go over the curfew, it's like $10,000, and then it's $1,000 a minute every minute after that.
That's not horrible.
Well, it depends on how far you go over.
That's not horrible.
I guess not.
No. I mean, that's pretty close to being standard.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah, that's why concerts end when they end at the amphitheater.
Yeah.
And downtown.
Yeah.
Because of the curfew.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And the easier thing to do is just start them a little bit earlier if you want to keep playing. That's all. But there's also a companion event at the in Indio called the Stagecoach Festival, which is the country version of Coachella.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. There's a couple of those. There's the Outlaw Festival, which is interesting because all the festivals we've spoken about so far are in one location. The artists come and people go to that location. Whereas the Outlaw Festival, which is Willie Nelson, it's going on 10 years now, they travel the country.
Yeah.
So that festival will go from city to city to city to city during the course of the summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's like a Warped Tour.
sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. So a Warped Tour's kind of situation.
Right.
Yeah, because I did a Warped Tour, but it was a Warped Tour was only a single day, I believe. I don't think it was an overnight thing.
Yeah, and so is the Outlaw Festival.
Yeah, so-
but they travel the country. But it's a multitude of bands. It's not one band. It's a lot of bands, a lot of music.
So Coachella is in California.
Indio,
Indio,
California.
California, and
Yep.
its average is about 250,000.
Yep.
All right. Lollapalooza, do you have the numbers on what it normally does in Chicago?
I don't, but I would think it's probably pretty close to over. It's got to be over 100,000 at least, and it gets bigger every year.
So
that's pretty groovy. But you got some of the granddaddies. We were talking about this earlier. The Newport Jazz Festival started in 1954 in Newport, Rhode Island,
Okay.
and it's and that's very, very classy.
yeah.
And then that morphed into the Newport Folk Festival, which started in 1959. And then it created quite the hubbub in 1965 when little Robert Zimmerman came on stage and plugged himself in. And Bob Dylan went electric, and the world was aghast
At the folk festival.
at the Folk Festival. Yep.
All right, and I'll tell you this: one of my best moments at a music festival was at the Southern Exposure Festival, and it didn't happen during the festival, But at the end of the festival, it was a festival for Stetson Kennedy.
Okay.
He wrote the book Southern Exposure along with several other books, and that's why he's in the Florida Literary Hall of Fame. But he had a very... he's the godfather of Arlo Guthrie.
Okay.
All right. And he also had a big, great relationship with Ramblin' Jack Elliott. All right. So at the end of the night, I'm just working my ass off and stuff like that. We go back to Stetson's house. It was at Alpine Groves. And we go back to Stetson's house. And Arlo's father,
Woody
Guthrie, this land is your land, this land is my land, this land is your land. The writer of that was one of Stetson's best friends before he kind of got a little wacky. Woody had a mental illness that kind of shortened his life. But how they became friends is Woody read Palmetto Country, and he wrote on the sleeve, the cover that went around the book, a letter to Stetson and mailed it to him. He mailed it to him and said, "Hey, I'm coming down to Beluthahatchee, which Beluthahatchee's in St. Johns County, where Stetson was at." And Stetson was running from the KKK at this time, pretty regular, and said, "I'll be at the train station on this day." Well, Stetson got that letter literally a day before Woody was supposed to be there. We're talking in the 40s, and so he met him at the train station. And they became really, really close friends, best friends. Stetson had to go to France because of all the death threats at one point, and Woody stayed at Beluthahatchee. As he was kind of getting his at the beginning of his mental illness, but that cover was gone, and we had a copy of it, but we didn't know where the cover was. And that night, Ramblin' Jack says, "Oh, I brought it with me." He had it for like decades, and one of the coolest moments was Arlo is reading his dad's letter to Stetson, talking about like how he admired his writing and what he was doing, and his pushback against society. And Ramblin' Jack had that letter, and he had it with him. So Arlo read it to all of us in the after show. And I remember standing in Stetson's kitchen, and you know how like you stand around at a party and you're just standing in the kitchen. And I'm with, at this time, Stetson I think was 92 years old. Ramblin' Jack was in his 80s, and Arlo was probably in his late 60s. And we're talking 15 years ago, so I don't even know if I turned 40 yet. So it was even further back than that. And I'm just sitting here with I'm doing shots with these guys that are out drinking me that are twice my age. And this is when I was a professional. I felt good about my drinking ability. Yeah. And, Ramblin' Jack, Stetson, and Arlo just the three of those guys, three old friends just getting back together like they've never missed a day. Right. And they hadn't seen each other in the three of them hadn't been in the same room together in like 20 years. That's a real Americana Zelig moment. Yeah, no, it was one of the, and the other one I had with Stetson was I was able to introduce him to George McGovern, and having breakfast with them, and that was one of those moments where I was like, I got to step up my game a little bit. These guys did some real cool shit. Oh yeah. So I still think of that moment like I still got to step up my game a little bit. You're not that far off. You keep going, and you got years ahead of you. I got a couple more ice cream seasons to catch them. Yep. So I don't think I'm going to catch them. Well, I'll still keep aiming that bar. As high. My wife would say, it's not a competition. No, it's not. It's not. Well, it's like, if they can do this coming from there, you can. It's good to measure yourself and grade yourself. I think in a lot of ways to push yourself a little bit further. A goal and motivation, absolutely. Push yourself a little bit further. All right, let's talk about sponsors because we didn't do this. Our newest sponsor, thank you guys so much. The Saint Restaurant, located on Avenida Menendez, best Italian food in town. Get over there if you haven't seen them. You can do reservations. Amazing place. All right, the Vault and Company, the Pontique.
Very classy.
I have to say it's slow.
Right.
The Pontique.
Right.
All right.
And spell it properly.
Yeah, exactly. They focus on coins and jewelry. They also have one of the biggest handbag collections in town. Get over there, call the Vault and Company. Keep an eye on their social media page. They do an amazing job on that. You can always see specials. You're going to save some money, and if you go in there, they'll save you even more money. Tell them you came to them from us. And they'll help you out. All right, Kaiser's Deli and Market. Tell them about how amazing Kurt is and the crew over
First of all, he's just wonderful. The food is great. It's all Boar's Head products. And, like I said, I had just a great sandwich. I'll put it to you this way. I am not a finicky eater, and I don't have a weak appetite. Yet I only finished half of my sandwich at lunch and had the other half last night. It was great. And I look forward to eating there. And the bread is fresh every day, brought in from a bakery in Jacksonville. And it really is. You can get a ciabatta, you can get a hoagie roll. Got marble rye for the ever lovely Daddle Reuben. And he's got the best pastrami in St. Augustine, bar none.
What is it?
Bar none.
Navel pastrami.
Navel, right? It's from a different cut.
So
It's not the brisket. It's the navel.
It's so good. So good. All right. Also amazing. If you haven't given them a chance, you need to get your butt over there right now. Where have you been? You've been sleeping on it. St. Augustine Pirate Museum, just do an amazing job. They take care of people of all ages. They figured out how to entertain everyone at the same time. It just doesn't get any better than the St. Augustine Pirate Museum.
And you can shoot cannons.
You can.
You can shoot cannons.
Yes, and you can go below deck as the pirates invade your ship. So it's a very,
where you want to,
very cool.
I don't know if I want to be there. I don't want to be there on the top. Hey, have you ever been to Old Ironsides, the USS Constitution?
Yes, and a great, funny story. So Blake,
Hi, Blake.
Blake knows the story.
I guess he does.
So it's in Boston.
Correct.
All right. So
Charleston, actually.
Constitution?
Yeah, I think it's in Charleston.
No, it's in Boston.
Well, Charleston is just across the bay.
Oh, Charleston's the name of a city in Boston?
Yeah.
It's in the city limits of Boston, but it might be the port of Charleston.
Okay.
Blake,
where is it?
Check it out, Blake.
We'll put him to work while you tell us this wonderful story.
It's the third. It's stop number 3 on the Boston Green Trolley Chore.
Okay.
So I told Rebecca we were only there. We were coming back from Iceland. We were only there for a day, and I said, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure I go see the Constitution. And she thought it was the document.
It's not in Boston.
Not in Boston.
It's not in Boston.
And so we're going on this boat. And she's like, wow, that's really kind of cool. They keep it on the boat. And I was like,
I do so enjoy that woman.
What are you talking about? I was like, this is the name of the boat. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, like the whole time she thought we were going to see, and I don't think I ever called it Ironside or said it was like the oldest warship or anything like that. But Blake, go ahead and give us the info.
Charlestown Navy Yard.
Charlestown Navy Yard, but is it in Boston city limits?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's Charlestown Navy Yard inside Boston.
So a point for each of us.
Yes.
Okay.
We both, I know it's stop number 3 in the Boston trolley.
Well, all right. So,
But it was absolutely amazing. The different levels. I had no idea.
Yeah.
There's 4 different levels to this boat.
And not a whole lot of headroom.
Yeah. Well, you and I aren't very tall.
Right. No.
So, and I guess people weren't that tall at that time.
No.
So, but I could still see you knocking your head around.
But the thing that fascinated me was that at least one of the decks was painted red, bright red.
Yeah.
Because it, didn't show the blood.
Yeah.
When they were in naval
they
battles.
Didn't lose a lot.
No, not there.
They didn't lose
because that was a solid boat. Yeah. Ship. Yeah.
The Ironside, I don't think it lost a battle.
Yeah.
So
Julie and I walked the Freedom Trail from Boston Commons.
Okay.
All the way over to Charlestown and over to Beacon and Breeds Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boston Commons is the oldest public park in the United States. Probably there was one in St. Augustine ahead of it, but the one that they're claiming, because the plaza was there, but I don't know if they considered it a park.
Right. Yeah, it was more commerce, I would think, with the.
And it became a park because that's where the cows grazed or something. Yeah. So, and across the way is where the swan boats are, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Boston's a fun city.
I love it. Yep.
But that
good
was
food there
that
too.
was my story of the USS Constitution.
That's too funny.
So
and just if you go, the marker over John Hancock's grave. Mm-hmm. It's very phallic. That's all I'm saying. Very phallic.
Yeah. Well, Paul Revere had like 7,000 children. I think he had 17 children or something like that.
That was with one wife?
2.
Okay.
He had 10 with the first one. He married another young woman and had like another 7 or something like that. Blake, fact check.
I don't want to fact check that.
Check how many children Paul Revere had.
Okay.
Or get yourself a picture of John Hancock's
Let's
tombstone.
not fact check that part. And we don't need a picture of it.
16.
He had 16
I
children.
can still visualize it. I'm still traumatized. Don't worry.
Well, we're still talking about our sponsors. Abare, Kresge and Associates, best CPAs in town. They're wonderful. If you're doing your own taxes, you're a dummy. Get over there, give them a call. They'll take care of you. Meehan's Irish Pub. If you haven't been there, you need to get your butt there. Right on sponsor row. Reggie and his crew do it up right. Mm-hmm. Give them a call. Don't give them a call. Just drop in.
Right. Show up.
Show up.
Say it to Caleb for me.
They'll take care of you. Or Brian in the back or Kelly in the back.
Sure.
All right. St. Augustine Distillery in City Gates. We're drinking today. I need you to say it.
The Arepa.
Arepa.
Sherry cask. Finished bourbon.
All right. It's a good sipping bourbon. I'm going to call this an after dinner bourbon.
I'm sorry. It's a para.
A para.
Yes. I juxtaposed the R and the P.
All right. Yeah, arepa sounded a little dirty.
Well, it's a Spanish food.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
What you're going to go with. Okay. All right. St. Augustine Distillery and City Gate Spirits, the best tours in town. If you haven't tried out City Gate Spirits and the different flavors they have, and you're hitting up Meehan's for lunch, and then you're spending all day downtown hitting up the Pirate Museum, and then going to the Saint for dinner, you pretty much have covered sponsor row.
Yeah. Eat well, drink well, taste well.
I mean, that's an amazing list of people right there for us. Incredible.
Just what makes St. Augustine as wonderful as it is.
Yep. All right. Here's a question for you.
And yes, I did look at the John Hancock's headstone.
Yeah.
Very circumcised.
So the last 4 letters of his name
Are
Got
appropriate. Yep.
Got it. All right. Have you ever been to a festival and you heard someone sing and you went, wow, that's somebody that's worth watching?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, at the Great South Bay Music Festival, there was a local band called Miles to Dayton. Mm-hmm. And it was a family group. A brother and a sister, their spouses. 2 of the women played fiddle. Mm-hmm. Great band. Sort of bluegrassy, sort of rocky. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed them a whole lot and didn't know them until I went to the Great South Bay Music Festival 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. And they play there every year as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miles to Dayton. You can probably look them up on the interweb. They're good. They're fun. And I love me a fiddle.
Yeah, love you a fiddle.
I love me a fiddle. Mm. Yeah.
So, and one of my unique experiences, and I became friends with him after the fact, is we did the Lincolnville Festival when I was at the amphitheater one year on the festival field, and we had Cool and the Gang there.
Yeah.
So I got to meet a lot of the guys, and I think we had Boys to Men on Saturday night. Cool and the Gang was our Friday night. The irony of the whole thing was I met him. I wrote a check to him. We really didn't talk that night. And then 5 years later, we were invited to a dinner with, I think I talked about when we were talking about chefs, Johnny Rivers invited myself and one of the people I was working with, along with Cool and the guy from Miami Vice with 3 first names.
Philip Michael Thomas.
Still looked the exact same. So that's who was sitting at our dinner. There was like 3 of us from our group and Cool and the Gang, Cool from Cool and the Gang. And that's how Cool and I became friends, was from that luncheon. And I go, we met like 5 years ago. He's like, I remember being there, but I don't really remember a whole lot.
Right, okay.
And then that's how Cool and I became friends. But it was at a music festival that we happened to host here in town. So probably the most fun music festival that I did was the Crawfish Festival here in town.
Okay.
I don't know you. I don't think you were here yet.
No, I got here in 15.
Okay, yeah. So this would have been in 2008 or 9. And we did the Crawfish Festival. But that's the time I probably got in the most trouble. And Snoop Dogg was my closer on Friday night. and G Love was right before Snoop Dogg, and then Three Doors Down was on Saturday night. We had Dead Presidents of America, Peaches, and we had a Hinder. We had a good lineup, a really good lineup. But one of my rules was you can't cuss unless it's in the song. Don't cuss in between your music. Hinder and G Love really, I almost didn't pay Hinder. They cuss so much because it was right downtown.
Right.
I knew.
Sound carries.
And sound carries, and it was a foggy night, and you could hear all the way over to Volano. I mean, it was one of those. Everything that was against us was against us. But Snoop Dogg got blamed for everything in our southern town, and he was my only artist that was black, and it was like, how can you blame him? Now Snoop Dogg did at the end of his set. He did great. He didn't cuss the entire time except during the songs until the last sentence he said. And he said, "Thank you, and smoke more motherfucking weed." And that's the only time he cussed. Mm-hmm. And then TMZ calls me and said, "I heard Snoop Dogg got arrested. I got blasted in the paper over it, like the profanity going all over town and how much criminal activity was going on." At that festival, I had one arrest. All right. And it so happens I was up in the little lift that, so we had a police officer up in the lift, like they have one from the sheriff department. Mm-hmm. The city, it was me and a city officer, Brian, up there watching, and it looked like a Benny Hill episode that was happening. And we hear over the radio, "All right, we're in pursuit." And what happened was we had the big turkey leg vendor. Yeah. And a guy ran up and grabbed one of the turkey legs and was running around. He was pretty hammered, but he was running around. He was jumping over people, and I don't think my phone did videos at the time, and I was just like, this is really happening right in front of us, and me and him are just dying laughing. But he's the only arrest we did, and we weren't going to arrest him, right? Except he started once the police caught him, he started fighting the police.
Yeah, well, that's never a good idea.
Instead of giving up, all you had to do was give up the turkey leg. Right. We probably would have said, "Okay, we're going to walk you to the door," but because we don't like arresting people,
right? No.
So and people think, "Oh, policemen like no, they don't like arresting people.
Too much paperwork."
Yeah, no. But that was my experience at that festival, and that was. Of the ones I did, I probably enjoyed that one because it was food and music. So
in the olden days when I had my restaurants, I did a charity called Du Jour, which was an HIV and AIDS awareness day, and collected money to raise money to give grants to teachers in the Long Beach City School District to do primarily HIV and AIDS education. Because at the time, you have 15, 16-year-old kids who think they're invincible.
Yep.
And, you can scream all you want, but until you can get to them in some fashion, you need to convince them that there are safety measures that they need to take to keep themselves safe and alive and keep going. And we would do this in the parking lot of my restaurant, and raised a good deal of money each year, and then donated it back to the school district for grant programs. Initially it was HIV and AIDS education, and once we did that, we'd have speakers come in and address the entire high school, and then it would trickle down. If we had money left, we would do backpacks full of books and for the younger children and things like that. But we would do 5 or 6 bands, and they all donated their time, and that was a lot of fun as well. I had other friends who had other restaurants would set up booths and tables and things, a lot of raffles, so it was great. So it was a minor festival type of thing, but it was one day.
We tried Harvest of Hope for migrant workers. The only problem is both the times we did it, we had bad weather on those weekends, and we lost money. So it's not good when you're trying to raise money and you lose money.
And that's the only problem with a lot of these festivals.
A lot of these music festivals, and a lot of people go, "Oh, there's so many people," but the production that goes into it is so intense, and all that has to be paid up front. People don't understand how hard it is for what Pete pulls off with the Florida Man Games.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that. It's not an easy thing. I think I did 120 shows, and I lost money on 4 or 5. and most of them were at the music festivals.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I think of the 5, I think 3 of them were festivals themselves. I was always kind of found a way to break even at the concert because I could control the atmosphere. But it was the music festivals that really.
Well, if you're doing it in some place that's not a permanent venue, the amount of equipment and infrastructure that you need to bring in between staging and
the power you have to bring in is
the lighting,
is
everything,
incredible. And in the days when I was doing it, LED, you needed more power for the lights. I mean, these LEDs don't pull any power at all.
I just read today that there's at least 2 semiconductors in LED light bulbs.
Okay.
I don't quite understand that.
So,
But, you know, it's science, and, you know,
I don't know.
it's a little
Magic
above my pay
happens.
grade. Yeah.
I turn the switch, magic happens. I'm
still
not
not,
that
still
guy.
not, you know, because they're talking about how, you know, tariffs were going to affect LED light bulbs because of the semiconductors.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take their word for it, but I don't quite understand it.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But,
We're at the end of our show. Lenny, anything you didn't talk about? I see me going, of the ones that are out there, I see me attending Bonnaroo before I do Coachella because it's all the way in California.
As opposed to Tennessee.
As opposed to Tennessee.
Bonnaroo tends to get muddy.
Yeah.
Tends to get muddy at times.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm probably going to have my RV.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, so
Just charge the batteries.
yeah.
that's
Well,
all I'm
hopefully
saying.
no one steals anything off of it.
Yeah. Right.
But anything else that you feel like we left off? Great comments from everyone out there. Thank you, Barbara Jean and Bobby, and
Bobby for sure,
everybody who was participating with us tonight. Hit that share button, and check us out on YouTube, right, Blake? So,
and support our sponsors and let them know that you heard about them on us.
yeah. So, all right. Well, this is Bollox Talks and Tangents, and we'll be back next week at 6:34. Bye-bye.